We have the number, we have the economic status in the community. So why are we the least politically influential ethnic group in our beloved Los Angeles City? So, okay mga kapitbahay, nandito po ulit tayo sa Kapehan at Balitaan, and we are very honored today for the presence of our most respected and most beloved Phil-Am here in Los Angeles. She will be introducing herself later on, but before that, we would like to have a brag time for our first episode, which we garnered 11,000 reach and 6,700 views for our first episode. So,
the first Filipina on the Board of Public Works. It's a really important commission with the city because it's the only full-time paid commission. We meet 3 times a week. We have our own hearing room at City Hall, and we are essentially the city's infrastructure department. I oversee the Bureau of Engineering, and we have all the large infrastructure projects here in the city. So every day we see how critical the work is that the city does and how it impacts not just Filipino Americans, but really every Angelino, from our sidewalks to our buildings to our streets. That's what Public Works does. We also handle sanitation, so that's both in your storm drains and also when you flush your toilet, that's sanitation, to the trash pickup collection. We also handle and disperse over 80% of all of the contracts within the city of Los Angeles, which is also another reason that makes us important. We enforce the minimum wage, not just for the department, but for the entire city to make sure that Angelinos get paid their fair wage. And we also oversee street lighting, street services, so that's also the enforcement right now of street vending, which is really critical to our immigrant communities and making sure that we have a system in place to really manage what that looks like. So that's just a little bit about the work that Public Works does and why it's really critical to our quality of life here in LA.
Oh wow, I can hear the whole historic Filipino town clapping for that and sighing for relief of this place which need a lot of improvement, I would say, the historic Filipino town district. But mga kapitbahay, that's not the reason why we invited Jessica. It's not her achievement as a government official in her young age. The reason is that Jessica has a very, very good knowledge and wisdom on how to politicize the Filipino community in Los Angeles. We all know, we have so many experience here in historic Filipino town. Lately, last year, they made the historic Filipino town smaller. And one of the reasons why we were defeated in a neighborhood council is that politicians say, anyway, the Filipinos do not go out and vote, so why we have to consider their interest in the community. So we need Jessica to guide us. She might be the person we've been waiting for a long time to unite and guide the Filipino community. Do we deserve to be politically empowered in Los Angeles, Jessica?
Absolutely. You know, I think, thank you for those really kind comments. I think, I'm not the first person who's been in this community organizing. There's a lot of really amazing leaders, a lot of amazing organizations that are already doing great work, making sure that the community is united, whether it's from the Knights of Rizal to our press club to our Philippine Women's Club. There's a lot of leaders here in the community that deserve a lot of credit. We are fairly new to new immigrants here in the United States, even though it may not feel like it. We've only been here for, a little over 100 years. And so it takes time to develop an infrastructure. It takes time to organize. I think we're getting better progressively every year about what political empowerment looks like. And I think we really just have to empower each other and realize that the numbers are on our side, right? We're not just voters, but we are consumers of all kinds. We love to shop. We love to travel. We love to really, be patrons of a lot of businesses, and there is a lot of value in that. So there is, voting at the the ballot box, but there's also the choices that we make every day that all, in my opinion, count as votes, right? What we do with our money, what we do with our time, these are all choices. And it's really incumbent on us to make sure that, we organize each other.
One of the most, or the most common problem that the Filipino community encounters is the, disunity within the Filipino community itself. So, any advice for these people who have been at odds with each other for some time? Is there a way that they can be united and for a common good? Maybe we can set the objective higher than all their personal differences and organizational differences. So, what's your advice? They look up to you. They look up to you as their leader now.
No, I try to dispel that because we're all leaders, right? And so I try not to put the future of a community on one person. We are all responsible, and we are all leaders, and we all make choices in how we really, again, move the needle forward. I think for me it starts with dialogue, and it's really coming to the table without ego, without agendas, and really having an honest conversation about where we are and what opportunities did we miss so that we can learn from them. I think it really starts with dialogue, making sure that we break bread at the simplest form and make sure that we have a common understanding of what the larger goal is. Because I think for us, we want more, right? We want more leaders, we want better leaders. We want to make sure that Filipinos, are truly represented, not just in the public sector, but also in the private sector on corporate boards, and really making sure that they understand what our true value is. But that starts with understanding our true value in each other. And so I think that's where my advice would come in. It's just, let's talk about it. Let's have an honest conversation. If you don't disagree, let's all come to the table. I'm happy to be a convener in that. I've done it a few times already, and it's where I would like to lend my support, because if we can't talk to each other, we can't talk to anybody else.
Okay, this will be my last question for Jessica, and I will give to the our visitors the opportunity to ask questions to you. But do you think the Filipino community has the voting power to someday elect just even a councilor of the city?
Absolutely. Again, it's about empowering each other, right? It's about really thinking big and striving for what we want, and also understanding what it means to have somebody in a really high elected office, right? We bring not just representation to the table, but we bring a lot of value because we dominate in a lot of industries, right? One good example is, I think, our relationship with our parents, right? People always ask, why do you have so many nurses in the Philippines? And for me, I always answer, because we like to take care of our own, and we need our own expertise in-house instead of going to the hospital, to really make sure that we take care of our elders. And that's such a core value for us. And that is a huge strength in our community, is that we really take care of each other, right? And we just have to do it more in different ways. When it comes to organizing, that's one way to really look at what we've done really well in other industries and apply it to what we're doing in the community, right? Take care of each other, support each other, really, again, try to forget about any misunderstandings in the past and continue to push forward, because like I said, we have the numbers on our side. We have about 4 million Filipino Americans here in the United States. We have about 1.5 million Filipino Americans in the state, and we have the most Filipino Americans here in Southern California, about 400,000 just in Southern California, which is the most Filipinos outside of the Philippines, which is something that we really need to remind ourselves of, is what does the data tell us? The data tells us that we can do this, right? If every single Filipino, it's about probably 300,000 or so, but it's really important to look at what our reality is and what's holding us back, right? If we have the numbers, then what's holding us back sometimes is ourselves and our perceptions of each other. And so I really encourage everyone to lend an olive branch to your colleagues that you maybe have not talked to in a long time, and really try to consolidate as many of our organizations as we can, right? Because even within one organization, there could be 10 chapters, there could be 15 chapters. And so we really have to continue to understand that. What does that mean when we divide into multiple chapters? It means that we have less influence, it means we have less power, it means that we're divided, and that's not the message we want to send to each other, and that's not the message we want to send to future generations of Filipinos. I think for our grandkids and great-grandkids, when I look at what's in store for them, I want to see a united Filipino community, and that only happens if we get our ducks in the row and we really truly organize and get this done together.
Wow, what big words from our future leaders in LA. Yeah. Let's pray for that. So the questions will be coming from the floor. So who will shoot the first question? Okay. Okay.
So there's a lot of pro-Duterte and anti-Duterte. How do you get them to sit at the same table and advocate for their rights here in the United States and not back home?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think for me, we can learn a lot about how we respond to politics in the Philippines, because so much of it gets transferred over to how we view politics here in the U.S. And I really try to ground it in, what our future is. What do we want for our children, and what example are we all going to lead to be good citizens and really listen to each other? Partisanship is not just happening here, in the Philippines, but it's happening here with our own administration and our Congress, with our president. And so, my advice is always lead by example. It's really easy to give into the tit for tats when it comes to politics, and to really forget the reality that we're all living. And the reality is that we have the numbers. We have a lot of organizations who are so passionate about bringing the community together, and that's what our reality is. We have to organize for each other, for our children, for future generations, and we really have to be the example that others follow. And so for me, I try to practice what I preach, and so I really try to invite and have an open door policy for organizations that maybe I don't agree with, but I force myself to sit down with them. I force myself to sit down with people I may not always agree with, because I need to see things from their perspective, and there is value in that. The only way we can get over these is, again, to have a dialogue, and a meaningful one, by being open to listening to concerns before reacting right away. And so I try not to be reactive, I try to be proactive in a lot of these discussions.
Yeah, that's I appreciate you for having the character to do that, but unfortunately some of us have to do and have to have more experience and wisdom to be able to do such kind of attitude and reaction to some things that you don't go with alone very well.
Yeah, for me too, it's also just looking at what we've accomplished. And if we are reacting and having, again, a tit-for-tat mentality for when we don't agree with other Filipino Americans and our kababayans, what has that gotten us, right? If that's gotten us, more separate and divided from each other, then maybe we need a new, method and a new strategy of dealing with these issues. Because I think, like you said, it's incredibly difficult to not respond right away, especially when we have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, right? It's hard to, just pause for a moment, but I really try to, understand what makes me upset, and really try to take a moment of self-reflection, and really, I just pause for a moment, and my husband can attest to that. If somebody, makes a comment towards me that I may not necessarily need to agree with, I know myself to know that I'm a venter, and that I really need to get it out of my system. Unfortunately, my husband is on the receiving end of that. But once I get it out of my system, I can see things and try to see things from a more measured and from a more measured perspective. And so that's how I really try to deal with it. It's incredibly hard, but we're all capable of it, right? We all, at the end of the day, truly love each other as a community, and that's what I want people to remember and recognize every day.
The Philippines, and why not maybe do something that will make all this organization, both here and outside, to have what we call a convention, wherein every organization will have a representative, and we will discuss in that convention what the future of our Filipino, what Filipino can do to unite. And your leadership is needed.
You guys are putting a lot of pressure on me. No, I think that's a great idea. I think, organizing is critical, and having one event to both have these conversations and also symbolically to the rest of the world is important. I think even more important than having one event are the conversations that happen leading up to that event or convention or summit, right? So I think one of the things that we can do better at as a community, as individual organizations, as individual leaders, is again the dialogue, right? So we can host an event, but if at the end of the day you can't walk away from that event making an agreement and having a common understanding with somebody you may disagree with, it's just an event, right? And so I really want to really show people and lead by example about what does it mean to have a meaningful relationship and to have meaningful community organizing. And now honest, brutally honest sometimes, and then once you have those conversations where you come to agreement about what you're already going to decide, then the event is something that's just an exclamation point, if you will, about something that you already agreed to. And I think that's a really important part about good community organizing, is the real work actually happens before the event. The real work happens behind the scenes, because there's some things you don't want to say in public. There's some things that not everybody needs to hear. And I think that's what, if you will, the connective tissue, that we really need to repair and heal, right? And that's a big part of it, right, is we need to heal. There's been a lot of relationships broken, trust broken, multiple organizations formed out of one, and we need to heal, and we really need to recognize that. And once we have those conversations and we recognize what work we need to really do together, then we can have that big convention, right? Because then we can show each other, we can show the world, we can show Filipinos in the Philippines that this is how you organize, this is how you unite, this is how you come together. And so that's what I try to really emphasize with these events, is that, again, the real work is behind the scenes. The real work is between you and me sitting down over a cup of coffee, being honest. Yeah. Thank you for this and for the opportunity to, with a live audience, unexpected. I think, I just want people to walk away knowing that you are a leader, right? I'm really privileged to be in this position, to be working for, the mayor, to be working on behalf of the city, but you should feel empowered and that everyone has a role to play in what our future looks like. For me, I'm never going to stop promoting the message of unity and making sure that we come together and that there's really a bigger picture at play here, and what do we want for our kids and our grandkids. I'm never going to stop sharing that message, because I think it's important. It's one that is true for not just Filipino Americans, but all of us who are citizens of this country. And so, I really challenge everyone here, because I know we're capable of it, right? What role do you have to play to really move the ball forward? What can you do better? What can I do better? Those are really questions I ask myself every day to really make sure that we're doing better, right? We must strive for more. We must strive to be, improving all the time. and it's really incumbent on us to make sure that we do better. And so it's about unity, but it's also making sure that we do our fair share to move the ball forward. And so for me, I'm always going to be out there in the community doing what's best, and sharing again the priorities of our mayor, of our city council, and really, you know, all of you as respected leaders in the community. You know, you all have really important roles to play. We can only do this together, do this with our partners in the media to again, you know, keep saying the same message over and over again, because I know one day everyone will start to believe it. I know I'm not going to stop, and I know I can count on everyone here to continue to promote the message of unity. So.
Yan po, maraming salamat at kung ako naman po ay mabibigyan ng konting pagkakataon magsalita, one problem that we have in the Filipino community is that we only have two groups, and sometimes we need a group in the middle to bring these two groups together.
Yes.
And I think we have to, for the record, we have to be looking at Jessica to be the leader of these groups that will like really pull each other together, the two opposing groups. So that's for the record.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
Oh, Jessica, yeah, okay. Yeah, she cannot do it alone. Yeah.
You know, I'm here as a convener, but you guys do the real work in the community. I really want to empower you guys and remember that you guys do so much. You know, you know, moved back here to California just 4 years ago after living in DC with my husband. And, you know, but you have been here in LA organizing the entire time. So I'm not sharing anything new. I'm just telling you what your potential is. And you guys just have to recognize that, you know. So, you have so much to add, and you do so much in the community. So, you know, you all should be thanking each other.
Okay, mga kapitbahay, lahat po kayo ay kasama dito sa ating solusyon. It's not only Jessica, it's not the people here, it's the whole community of Phil-Ams here in Los Angeles. Mabuhay po tayong lahat. Mabuhay! Po. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Never gonna lie.